Wide open land, scorching temperatures, and of course, cowboy hats. Who would have guessed that here in the middle of Texas, the German Luftwaffe has a training program for fighter pilots. In collaboration with the US Air Force and 12 other NATO members, they complete their flying training here at Sheppard Air Force Base in Wichita Falls. So what's that look like exactly? How do the different countries benefit from each other? And why is this program so important? Let's find out. It's April 2024. Florian has been a flight student here at Sheppard Air Force Base for a little over a year now. He's originally from Ravensburg in southwest Germany. In just a few weeks, he will graduate. He'll earn his wings, as they call that here, and will officially be a fighter pilot for the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe. A job that undoubtedly has a pretty cool reputation, but also comes with a lot of risks.
It's going to be one of the best jobs, and that's everything that counts for me. In every job you have risks, but at least at flying you have some fun as well.
Wow. Did you always want to become a fighter pilot?
As a kid I wanted to become an astronaut, but then I realized that it's impossible to become an astronaut because it's so difficult. Then I let go of this dream, and then when I was 15, 16, I saw some YouTube videos about a flying montage to music. And that was quite nice to see. And I was like, maybe I should try the tests, which are very hard. I will fail anyway, so I just give it a try. I tried and I did not fail in the first test. I did not fail in the second test, and it just moved on. And in the end, I passed all the tests. And I was, okay, maybe that's my job now in the future, to become a fighter pilot.
Now, Florian is one of about 200 student pilots who go through the training here every year. Officially, it's called Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training, but everyone here just calls it ENJJPT. The program was first established in 1981 and is the only flying training program of its kind, where all aspects, from students to instructors, leadership, resources, and costs, are shared among the 14 partner nations. This includes the US, who hosts the program here in Texas and provides about 50% of the students, Germany, who has the second most students with 24 slots per year and owns a portion of the jets that are used for the training, as well as the United Kingdom, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Turkey, Greece, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Romania, Spain, and Portugal. In the early 2000s, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver Schmidt was a student here at ENJJPT himself. After a few years in Germany as a Eurofighter pilot, he decided to return as an instructor pilot. He tells me why the program is so important for Germany, but also for NATO as a whole.
First of all, for us, it's a great opportunity because of the area here. So we have airspace available, which we won't have in Europe because it's so dense there. The weather is typically very good here, especially in the beginning when we need good weather for practicing takeoffs and landings. That's much better here than especially wintertime in Germany. But besides the training, what's really important to us is the partnership we are building here already. So the students learn to fly with different nations. All those nations train the same way. So especially as a small nation or smaller nation like Germany, if we ever go to war, it will never be alone. We will always be in an alliance. And typically those guys we're going with, we trained with together, so we speak the same language and can operate easily together and don't have to get used to each other.
But it's not just the standardized training that matters. There's a social aspect too.
You know those faces. So I have heard many times and experienced myself that you're on an exercise, on a deployment, and you remember that guy and you talk to him and said, okay, yeah, we train together, and it's much easier to reconnect because you know each other already.
This is something that every person I talked to at ENJJPT seemed to agree on.
We built friendships from the get-go. So we train together, We know each other for a long time, and later on when we do have exercises or we're going to go somewhere for a conflict, we know each other, right? So the trust level is already there.
The odds that in 5 years we will do some combat mission and I will hear the students that I went through pilot training with from other countries' voice over the radio, their call sign, is pretty high. But I know that who is ever in that plane, I automatically have the trust that they have my back and that we can execute this mission properly.
Daniel Sivney is one of the American instructor pilots, but also attended the program as a student. Out of 25 people in his class, he was one of only 2 Americans.
We had Spaniards, we had Italians, we had Germans, we had Dutch, and we had Belgians. And so that group chat is still very alive. Whenever people are traveling, hey, I'm here, what are you doing? So checking in with people. My formation partner was a German, Manuel, if he watches your YouTube video. What's up, banana? And so we trusted each other with our lives from very early on. So it's not like you're just colleagues, it's more like your brothers or sisters as far as like, you are trusting someone to fly 3 feet away from you in a thunderstorm.
For every student a nation sends to Egypt, they have to provide 1 instructor pilot too. The only exception to this is Greece, as they do have instructors here, but no students.
We just mix them and everyone flies with everyone. So it doesn't make any difference once you're in the system, what nation you're from, you're just one part of the team. And you either get your training or you are an instructor and train the future pilots.
One of the biggest benefits of the program is that every nation has different skill sets and experiences they bring to the table.
A lot of our Dutch IPs here currently have a lot of no-kidding combat experience, where we can't really say that about a lot of the American instructors that we're getting back right now. I mean, the Brits, a lot of them can be a little bit older in age. So we've got one squadron leader, March. He just retired, but he was, 60 years old flying. And so just because we don't allow our pilots to be that old in the Air Force, he's seen everything, So he can talk about, hey, here's how we used to do it, and here's why we changed it, and here's why that matters.
Especially smaller nations like Norway, the Netherlands, Denmark, they were pretty active in the Libya war. And it's really good to get to know this experience as well from small nations who participated. And this way maybe tailor our training that it's more designed for what it's supposed to be. I mean, we all hope we don't have to go to war, but our goal is to be ready.
Today, Florian will be flying in a 2-ship formation, meaning he will fly with 1 wingman, Ray, an American classmate. But first, the whole class gets together for the daily stand-up, where 2 of the students get quizzed about how they would handle a specific emergency situation. With the cameras being in-house, they coincidentally picked Florian today. For the next half hour, he describes exactly which steps he would take in this situation.
So my game plan now is to conduct a flight split, because we only have a single runway to use in Altus. So I will clear my wingman off to go back to Sheppard for an instrument approach in Sheppard.
He confirms the status quo with his instructor.
What is my fuel flow indication on my right engine?
It is below 60.
And practices his radio calls to the tower and his wingman word by word.
5-2 emergency, I had a right fuel boost light.
Florian passed the stand-up. If he had failed, he wouldn't actually be allowed to fly today. After this, he also has to give the morning briefing about today's weather and flying conditions.
Time is now 9:50 local. Good morning, Nacho. This is, I'm First Lieutenant Florian, and today is the 10th of April, 2024. First brief to fly is at 10, and we got a time hack.
Nacho is the name of Florian's squadron, his class. They all go by letters, and for each letter they use a memorable word. Squadron M is Mom, P is Python, and N is Nacho.
For the FAME for today, gusty winds whole day, but most likely straight down the pipe. High altimeter setting, sky clear, beautiful day to fly, except the wind.
Then Florian prepares for his flight.
Ohne der Vorbereitung geht's nicht. Also man kann nicht in das Flugzeug einsteigen mit dieser Karte in der Hand und einer groben Ahnung, was passiert, sondern man muss sich wirklich vorbereiten, man muss die Route einmal durchgehen, man muss wissen, auf welcher Seite man seinen Flügelmann haben möchte, sein Wingman, sein Partner, damit er jetzt nicht in einen Turm oder was reinfliegt.
So why are you folding that?
I'm folding the map because there's not much space in the cockpit itself. So if you have a big map like this, you can keep it in one hand. So you have one hand for the throttle, the other hand for flying. And I also highlight the points here. So I have, for example, pink for a radio call, and also all the towers, which are our obstacles. We have to stay clear of them. I should pass this tower exactly at 1 minute 50 seconds. So when I pass the tower, I can see, oh yeah, my clock is 1 minute 50 seconds. I see, yeah, that's a good update point. I'm good in time and I'm good on track.
And as if being on camera all day wasn't enough already, his instructor pilot that will be sitting in the back seat today is the big boss, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Schill, Senior National Representative for the German detachment at Sheppard Air Force Base. To discuss all the details of the upcoming flights, they first sit down with wingman Ray and his instructor pilot for a briefing. Then they split up and go through another briefing, just the two of them.
What type of flight is it going to be today?
It's low-level training we do with them. It's end of the training, so they're very close to graduating.
The low-level phase marks the last part of the students' training. At this point, they've already completed the contact phase, where they learn the basics of flying the aircraft, the instrument phase, where they learn to fly in low visibility, and the formation phase, where they fly with up to 3 wingmen. During the low-level phase, they fly as low as 500 feet above ground level and have to make their way to a target on time.
What's the trickiest part about that?
Getting into the route and getting out of the route and coming back home. It's very close to where we take off from, and it's very task generating for them. Task management is a big factor for them, so that's the most important point for them today.
Now we go to the step desk.
Okay.
We will get our takeoff information, a quick weather update, and then we get our gear and go move out to the jet.
Wow, that's a lot of equipment.
I call it a German word. It's Puma-Käfig. It's basically the cage of a bobcat, because in summer it smells.
This is the T-38 operations desk, or step desk as Florian calls it. T-38 is the type of plane Florian will be flying today. Of the 55 weeks of training here at ENJJPT, the students spent the first 28 of them training in a T-6 single-engine propeller aircraft before they move up to the T-38 supersonic jet that can reach speeds of over 850 miles per hour. At the step desk, Florian can see which plane number is assigned to him today. He receives another weather update and gets the final go for his flight. Time to get dressed.
So we have my G-suit. It helps you against the forces in the aircraft.
Fighter pilots regularly have to handle up to 8 Gs or higher, so 8 times their own body weight. The compression suit helps prevent the blood from rushing down into their legs.
You have this hose here, which is plugged into the aircraft, and there will be bleed air from the engine, which is pressurized, so it pumps up the G-suit. So you can pull up to 7.2 Gs in a T-38, and therefore you need like protection that you don't pass out or get like a funneling vision. Then you have the harness, which basically connects to your ejection seat. So when you have to eject, you will hang on the parachute on this. So the parachute itself
in the jet.
is in the jet, in the ejection seat. And of course, when you go to the jet, you have straps which goes through your legs, but you cannot really walk when you
Okay,
put
so
that
you
in.
don't do that yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay. What usually goes through your head when you put on all these gear and you get ready for the flight?
What I can mess up in the flight. And just think about these things more and more, that I don't mess them up in the flight. My helmet right here with the mask for the oxygen supply, and the communication cord goes in the bag. I just put it in the jet itself.
Oh, earplugs?
Yeah, so the helmet itself has some hearing protection, but it's so loud and the noise of the engines is quite high, and double protection is always better.
Go. Yeah. You ready? Rock and roll.
The planes constantly undergo safety checks and maintenance here, but it's also up to the pilots to double-check the aircraft for any potential problems before and after each flight.
So you're getting ready to fly. How do you feel in these moments right before you take off?
A bit nervous because you can fail the flight if you make a mistake. You can also die if you make a mistake. So it's always a little bit of tension before the flight. Flight itself was okay. There was some stuff we kind of fucked up, if I can say it like that. And then there were parts which went very well, so it was an okay flight.
It looked really cool from down here, so I can tell you that.
It always looks cool, but it's more effort to sit inside a flight, the jet, than looking from outside.
Florian flies about 1 to 2 times every day. In addition to that, he also has to complete exercises on the flight simulator.
We actually have former fighter pilots here who are our simulator instructors. They are retired Air Force, US citizens, and they do all the academics, they do all the sims. So the good thing for us is when the student hits the so-called flight line, when we start to fly with him, they're pretty far already. So they know the academics, they have done at least 10 sims. I have a couple of emergency sims done already. They know how to start the engine, how to take off. So it's very nice for us that we don't start from zero with them.
And throughout their training, this is where they can practice new maneuvers and emergency situations in a safe environment and without taking up resources like flying hours or fuel.
At the moment I have a lot of stick forces and the trim does not seem to work right now. So maybe a wrong setup of the sim, but basically it could happen in real time, all the time. So now I handle this as my small little emergency. I'm trying to bring it back home to Sheppard Air Force Base safely.
In addition to the big simulators, the students also have access to these new VR simulators.
Dass man mal etwas mehr im Cockpit rumschauen kann, gerade für Formation ist das relativ wichtig. Mal rauszuschauen, wo sein Wingman ist.
This setup also allows for Florian and the other students to simulate formations together and practice their communication throughout the flight. On about 6,000 acres here in northern Texas, Sheppard Air Force Base trains over 60,000 airmen and personnel from other military branches every year. It's almost like a small town in itself, with its own supermarket, restaurants, an elementary school, a bowling alley, several gyms, a running track, a baseball field, tennis courts, a volleyball field, and so much more. About 7,000 people even live on the base. Florian is one of them. After a long day at ENJJPT, he comes home to his dorm, where he lives with the other international flight students. Based on the truck, it looks like he's adapted quite well to life in the US.
The most important about the German dorms is the German table down here. We come together almost every evening here,
Nice.
just to talk about the flights and talk about what happened, what went wrong. And at the weekend, maybe there's a big barbecue and all the internationals come together. And it's very, very good for intercultural communication.
Nice. Do the people that live here with you kind of replace your family while you're here?
Basically, yes, they do. Because when I have a problem, I can go to them, talk to them, and those are the only people I have here. So my family's at home. Those people are my family, or became my family.
You see the German flag. Nett hier, aber waren Sie schon mal in Baden-Württemberg? That's like a running gag among Germans. These stickers are all over the world.
Okay, welcome to my little home.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. So what do you usually do when you get home?
Drop my backpack, maybe went to bed for half an hour sleep, or I just take a walk for 15 minutes to clear my head. Maybe I cook, maybe I don't cook because I don't have the energy anymore, and go back to the table and study. So it continues after 12 hours being in the building. You continue 2 to 3 hours at home to just prepare the maps, prepare the next mission. I also have the poster down here of the cockpit mock-up. That's where we chair fly. So I sit on the ground, you have something in your hand, just a stick, whatever, or a pencil, and you just sit there, and it's kind of a daydream where you get all the checks done. You flip the switches, you might even touch the poster, even if it's weird. I fly the whole flight one time in my mind before I fly it in the jet.
So you always prepare for the flight that you're going to do the next day?
Yes, it's a must-be.
Okay.
If you don't prepare, you're gonna fail.
Oh, cowboy boots. So I guess you've become a little bit of a Texan then.
You need to live the lifestyle, or at least experience. Get along with some line dancing.
Do you know how to line dance?
Yes, I do.
You got that ahead of me. I still have to learn how to line dance.
I got a small kitchen. I cook a lot because the food here is terrible. So I have to prep my own meal every day. I even bake my own bread.
Who taught you how to make your own bread?
Oh, my mom and my grandpa. He's a bakerist, And my mom, she's a confectionist. We do it via FaceTime, or she helps me out. The yeast here is different than in Germany. So my mom sent me yeast for Christmas, the Christmas package, so I can bake my bread here.
Whenever he finds the time, Florian also tries to squeeze a workout into his schedule because staying fit is important to withstand the G-forces during a flight. The pilots here even have to undergo special aerospace physiology checks and training.
So we have one thing we do in Germany already, in Königsbrück, Dresden. That's where we got the altitude chamber. So you check basically your body if you're good to go to high altitudes, what your symptoms are if you lose oxygen in flight, because the system might malfunction and each person has different symptoms. So you have to know what your symptom is for hypoxia in order to counteract it by using your emergency means. And we do the same here over again. So for us, we have to do it every 5 years to kind of upgrade those symptoms. Also here at Sheppard, like the first ride, I would say 50% gets airsick. I mean, not actively, but they don't feel well, maybe. But most of them after ride 2, ride 3, it's gone.
My first flight in the T6 was okay. It was not great. I had to use 100% oxygen to make me feel less sick in the flight itself. Because it was my first flight after a year after initial flight training. And we did aerobatics like aileron rolls, loopings, barrel rolls, all the stuff just to experience what the aircraft is capable of. So I got a bit motion sick in the first one. I never had to vomit the first flights, but yeah.
If someone has really hard time with air sickness, there's a program, we call it the anti-vomiting program. It's a chair and they're gonna spin for about 5 minutes. They have to close their eyes and typically they continue until they vomit again. And over time, I guess they get desensitized and then suddenly it's not a bad feeling anymore in flight. Typically 90% of the guys who had issues with air sickness, they can continue the training normally, and then again 10% they don't make it, and actually it's good for them because it's not a nice feeling. What I think is amazing that those guys go through this because their dream is so big of becoming a pilot that they're willing to accept this bad feeling for quite a while. And mostly overcome it. And for the newcomers, for the students here, they also do parachute landing training. So they get the academics education. But funny enough, on most ejections with the ejection seat, the injuries happen typically during landing. And that's why you practice the landing here, that you do not try to stand once you land, but that you kind of roll in order to kind of avoid breaking your legs afterwards. And they also do it here in practical part. There's like a zip line they're getting attached to, and then they learn the falling part.
Fortunately, in real life, the ejection seats aren't usually needed very often. Instructor pilot Oliver Schmidt never had to use one in his entire career.
Here at Sheppard, we had between 2010 and 2020, I think, 2 ejections. And they both came out safely. They were slightly injured, but they were able to fly afterwards again. So it saves your life and you can live well afterwards. So it's a very, very good piece of equipment.
Unfortunately, only 1 month after we filmed at Sheppard Air Force Base, there was a tragic accident where an ejection seat of a T-6 aircraft malfunctioned during ground operations and killed the American instructor pilot, Captain John Robertson. While the risk that comes with the job of a fighter pilot is something that Florian is aware of, it never kept him from pursuing his dream.
At the moment, I don't really think about it because I'm in a phase of training where I need to focus on what's tomorrow, what's my next flight. I don't care about the future, I just care about what's bringing me to my next step, which is getting my wings and become a pilot.
With ENJJPT being the only program in the world where different NATO countries train together, it plays a significant role for the future of the alliance. It's a win-win for all participating countries.
Especially for a small nation, if you have to put this up by yourself, it would be very expensive, very demanding for the surroundings for just for a handful of people. So the small nations definitely benefit from it, but also the US, I think they benefit a lot because now they have partner in Europe protecting kind of the eastern area of NATO, which have the same mindset, the same skills, the same training as the US guys and don't have to be US personnel there.
It's very important for NATO. It's very important for the nations to have that kind of relationship, to build partnership, to build trust in each other, and how to see that we can grow all together. I think there's only the chance to do it together, Maybe the future conflicts we are looking into would be big conflicts, and that's the only way we can work together is with NATO and to be able to deter those conflicts. Yeah.
Since you're at the end of the training now, what would you say is the most difficult part about being a fighter pilot?
Managing your time. Every brief starts right at the second, and you have to be on time, on target, and then you have to study all the stuff, you need to prepare.
Decision making. If you hesitate to make a decision, it can put you in a worse spot than you're in.
The struggling part is often task management, so that we have to do many things at the same time. Since we train fighter pilots, and most fighters nowadays, they are single cockpit, so they have to do everything. They have to fly the aircraft, they have to do radios, they have to operate the sensors, they have to keep SA, that's what we call for situational awareness. That's actually pretty tough to know what's happening around you. And I would say with that SA and task management, that's where most guys struggle, to do it all at once or at least quickly after each other in order to deal all your tasks.
In just 2 days, Florian and the other student pilots will finally find out which aircraft they'll be flying after they graduate.
That's the point where all of us work for. Like we have a score which combines all your grade sheets you have for every single flight. On this score, it's based what you will fly.
While the American students here will be assigned one of over 30 different aircraft types, there are only 2 options for the German students: the Panavia Tornado or...
I want to fly the Eurofighter Typhoon because it's one of the modern aircraft Germany has. I like the plane, it looks awesome, and also the locations where it is stationed. I really miss home when I'm here, so I want to get as close to my home again after I go home to Germany. Friday is officially named assignment night. We call it drop night because you drop your aircraft you will fly in the future. It's a huge party, it's not very formal. There's a PowerPoint of you and some facts about you, some funny facts, and then everything gets quiet, and then there's the aircraft in front, like a small video of the aircraft you will fly, and it's completely out of hand at this moment.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned over the last year, you feel like?
To work as a team. To work as a team as internationals. And to stay focused even if you have ups and downs. Just to try every single day to give the best you can do. Ups and downs come and go. Just try to be focused and never give up.